How are you approaching that to be flexible while being traditional and loyal to your player base?
Your role as a developer is to translate that very concept of the brand, the brand itself, into the game you want to deliver. All of these things happen, so we can learn from that and say it works, and you can work with the brand angle.
Well, every opportunity to talk to Jonathan Winters, I will take it. Jonathan, great to see you again.
Thank you.
We chat always in little bits and bites. It's like a soundbite relationship we have. So I don't want to lose that. I want to continue with that. And yeah, first of all, hearing so much about brand and branding being the big deal in the year ahead, and you as CMO, what are your thoughts? Do you feel that this is the year that games companies can really, truly engage and become those brands?
I have always believed in the importance of brand in gaming in general. I think it's very
And you were ahead of your time, right?
well.
Slightly.
It's and we know in gaming AAA like console PC gaming it was always about brand. So I think in mobile we got very comfortable with the idea that everything was very performance driven, numbers driven. And we paid far more attention to what did the numbers say, rather than what's the equity of a brand, for example, in the long term, which is very understandable, especially in the casual space, where the need for brand development is completely different. But for example, in our case, where we work with a very well-known IP like Warhammer, it's not that we have our own brand, so to speak,
Yeah.
but we work with a well-known brand of tabletop gaming, work very closely with Games Workshop, and then to convey that that lifestyle that is attached to that brand to the end user who fell in love with Warhammer and the game experience. That is where the loyalty comes from. That's where people get the enjoyment from, the relationship to what it means to them to have that brand in their life.
Also means a responsibility for you as well because they had that brand in their life. So when you want to have it, you can to some extent tweak it, to some extent change it, but not that much. It doesn't give you a lot of freedom in your brand. So how are you approaching that to be flexible while being traditional and loyal to your player base?
So it is very important to, no matter what brand you establish or you work with, that you always stay true to it, and
Yeah.
you don't manipulate it in a way that falsifies the image or gives alienates what the brand means to the loyal fans, for example. So you have to respect the community. You have to respect what the brand stands for. So what it means as someone who works with an IP, any person who works with an established IP, is to really actively listen to what it is important to have that brand established in your own game. And of course, your role as a developer is to translate that very concept of the brand, the brand itself, into the game you want to deliver. And it's important that you can create something that
Yeah.
is unique to you as a developer, what you want the players to experience.
Yeah.
In a way, balancing the respect you have for the brand and obviously making sure everything is brand accurate.
Well, what about the channel mix? Because something like this, it could lend itself if you're building brand. We were talking about you have to embrace the whole idea that you're not going to have the data purity that you used to have. So you have to go with a lot of hunches, guesses, yeah, things that are more about reinforcing brand that you can't really measure. How do you deal with that?
I think there is a way of combining the two worlds.
Have you done it?
Yes, we have done it in I think there are many examples of working with brands where they have specific outreach that is that has a possibility to be tracked. For example, newsletters like the
Yeah.
Warhammer newsletter is being sent out, and it gives a shout out to our game. It's something that you can see in the numbers as well. As a performance marketer, you can see uplifts and you can see impact of IP, right?
Yeah.
So a very well-known transmedia thing happens with the IP, like We've seen it in Fallout, for example, when the Amazon series came out for Fallout, the Fallout Shelter mobile game went through the roof. So that kind of relationship you can see. You don't need to have a specific dashboard to explore that. You can see that from the top level already. And that relationship you can see also across multiple different areas. And we have to also acknowledge that, especially since all the changes that have been happening on the iOS side, where tracking is actually not as reliable. It's not that one instrument is available to you, to not have that full visibility anymore. It has reminded a lot of us that we need to look more on the top level side, of the top level landscape view. What does it mean to run marketing, and how does it impact the whole picture? And I think in the brand marketing side, we don't want to say we only care about impressions. And I think that was a joke in the past that performance marketers, UA managers will say, oh, these brand managers, they only care about how many likes.
The brand formance.
Exactly.
You can't measure a like.
Social likes or impressions. I think we are much smarter nowadays. We understand where are the overlaps here. Where can we utilize what brand marketers have always known and traditional marketing has always known, and combine that with the knowledge we have around performance marketing. I think that's not two separate things. They are definitely together.
Yeah, we're coming back to brand marketing. Actually, it's you're in your time.
It's also important because I feel like with everything that's been happening on mobile gaming and the landscape of wherever you look, like hyper casual, and you see it also in more recent releases of games, that developing a narrative, a brand, an original brand has become a core focus for a lot of the mid-core to hardcore titles. Really double down on how to attract the core users of gaming again. Because mobile gaming as a whole has seen a lot of movements into different directions that also include people not necessarily believing in brand development on mobile anymore, because it comes across as cheap, free to play. No one wants that. It was always a console PC game.
Now they're all into brand.
And now cross-platform, and we see more like AAA brands have moved to mobile. Call of Duty, we have a Mario Kart game on mobile. All of these things happen, so we can learn from that and say it works, and you can work with a brand angle.
And you mentioned overlap, and that brings me back to the recent report from Archie that we were discussing, which is about looking at where users are when they're not in your game, when they're not in your app. Now, these aren't the mainstream apps. It's not saying, oh, well, advertise in Netflix because there are a lot of people there. But it's trying to be more specific and actually scientific about this, saying, okay, this specific genre, these specific types of users, they are in these other types of apps. So looking at app hopping behavior is a way to cast a wider net, not only for UA, but also for targeting and retargeting. How valuable do you find information like this? Is this something that you could imagine bringing into your strategy? So what's your take on data like this?
So for us, the immediate thing I have with that is it's definitely about these interest clusters that are relevant. And I think, again, it's not necessarily a completely new topic, because there has already been a lot of discussions over the last decade about how can we target very specific interest clusters, for example, on Facebook audiences that are relevant to your own game, right, or to something you want to promote. And also we have various tools available in the market that allow you to see exactly the connection, what are users playing aside from your own game, for example, and see the correlation you can sort of create the map. And I think this data is very helpful to identify exactly what your core audience is interested in. So it's information that helps you understand that since this, what is exactly the usage time, and what is kind of the incentive for them to do things. And it's kind of merging a lot of things. Like, for example, how can you gamify things on the e-commerce side? How can you make your games more attractive to people who usually don't play games. And I think you can learn a lot about this, but it's far more important to not just get all the insights and see that hopping that's happening, but also understand what is the action you can get from that. And I can't answer that without having seen a lot of the results from the report, but for example, a more concrete example I can give is influencer marketing. So it means if I know that certain users engage in specific non-gaming apps, maybe there's an interest cluster on YouTube. They're famous YouTuber content creators, and they can say, hey, we noticed that our audience really likes that specific topic.
And you can even bring it back into the game as well.
And then you can maybe connect it depending on what game you have, or for sure.
Okay.
These connections are possible.
Okay. Well, speaking of connections, I said it, Jonathan, every chance to connect with you, I'll take it. And we will sit down for a proper chat. If either of us can stop traveling long enough to do it. I see you at every event. It's a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
And of course, if you're tuning into In the Groove on YouTube, well, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. It will allow you to stay up to date with the series, and not only that, enjoy the pure gold of knowledge and insights our guests bring to every episode.